Professor Mutahi Ngunyi, welcome to Punchline.
Welcome to Hustler's Mansion.
Hustler's Mansion? You're no hustler. So why would you say that?
Every hustler has a mansion.
Oh, I see. I get it now.
Yeah.
I guess it's going to be a fascinating conversation then.
I hope so.
So let's begin with the handshake. In your opinion, was it a genuine effort by President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga to unite the nation?
A politician never knows that what they are doing is genuine until they've completed it. So even Uhuru Kenyatta did not know that this was genuine or not until it is completed. Raila Odinga also did it out of convenience, not out of genuineness. It's out of we needed to cool the temperatures in the country.
Right.
We will only know that this was genuine after the results, because it could go south, and if it goes south, then we will say, well, it was done to trick Raila Odinga. It can be used as a justification. And if it works, then we will conclude it was genuine and the country has now been united. The reason I'm saying that is because the currency of politics is lies. There's nothing like genuineness in politics. And that's why things like Chapter 6 of the Constitution, in my view, nothing but political nonsense, because politicians are wired not to be genuine. And genuineness only comes out post facto, after the results of the actions in which they have engaged. But I think there is a sense in which Uhuru Kenyatta was a little bit frustrated by the tear gas Mondays and the shenanigans around that. And he really wanted to cool down the country. But we will know whether the effort was genuine or not after the game is completed.
So in your opinion, the handshake and BBI does not have a predetermined outcome?
My hypothesis is that only one person knows what the outcome of this thing is. When Raila shook Uhuru's hand, he needed to have checked his hand, because he does not know what he shook into. The only person who knows what BBI and handshake will result in is one Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Nobody else knows. And if you hear people saying they know, I think they're just pontificating around their thinkings. Because I'm saying that because BBI 1 was a decoy, in my view. And I think Uhuru sat down and he said to himself, if I tell people genuinely what I want to do, because we have two problems in his mind that need to be resolved. One, the problem of exclusion. You want to bring in as many people into government. And the second one is a problem of cyclic violence every 5 years. And in that violence, the year before, country shuts down. The year after, country shuts down. We have only about 3 years of working. He says we cannot continue like that. And so in his thinking, my own hypothesis was we need to sort out these two problems. Now, he sorted out problem number one, problem of exclusion, by saying let's proliferate the executive and create 5 positions. So we have inclusion. But he never sorted out the problem of cyclic violence every 5 years with BBI 1. Because if we go with the proposals that are in the BBI 1 document, we will still have a contested election in 2022 or 2023, wherever this election will be. And the contest will be vicious. Actually, what will happen is that Raila will run against William Ruto for president. That will happen for a fact. And when that happens, we'll have a runoff. Then after the runoff, Maraga will say round 1 was wrong, because Maraga will still be there, or whoever the equivalent of Maraga will be. And when he says round 1 was wrong, we will have to go into another cycle. So,
but let me pause you there. Why a runoff? Don't you think President Kenyatta, in a sense, would be the determining factor if he chose to endorse either one of the two?
If Raila Odinga and William Ruto go into 2022-2023 election, there will be a runoff, for a fact. And you can go to the bank and borrow a loan against that prediction. There will be a runoff. Because you see, even Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, in the two elections, they only managed to escape a runoff by about 60,000 votes. Surely, if you have these two guys running against each other, when Uhuru Kenyatta will have a sway if he supports Raila Odinga, but voter turnout in Gema is most likely going to be low. So you'll not have the Kiambu 1 million showing up to the last man.
Because there isn't a Kikuyu candidate, is what you're saying?
There's no Kikuyu candidate, so the levels of interest will be very, very low. So a runoff is very likely. If runoff happens, it has to be held within 30 days. But before that 30 days, we will have to go to Maraga for determination as to whether that particular result was rigged or not. And that is another 30 days. So we might go into a cycle of elections for a whole 6 months, which could also run for almost 1 year, in my view. So to avoid that, in my thinking, and that's why I'm saying Uhuru Kenyatta is the only person who knows what he's doing in this case. To avoid that, BBI too will give us a proposal. And the proposal will be to have an executive prime minister. Executive prime minister is not elected directly. The president will not be elected directly. The man with majority within parliament is a guy who will become prime minister. And then prime minister can be appointed either by the president or by the parliament.
Will that man be Uhuru Kenyatta?
The prime minister? Yeah, so he said, even if you give it to me, I don't mind taking it. In my view, I think we will only know when that time comes. And it is very probable.
Would that be dangerous for country?
You see, the reason why we have followers is because, you know, a leader is supposed to take them in a particular direction. Otherwise, if we had followers leading the leader, it's like a dog being wagged by its tail. What is dangerous for country, in my view, will be determined at that particular point when those changes happen. And in my view, if it will be dangerous for country, we want it to be dangerous for country long before 2022, so that then it is sorted out early enough.
All right. You said that Raila did not take a chance to look at his hand and see, you know, what had happened to it after the handshake. And then you've argued that the president is the only one who knows that. But could the reverse be true? Does Raila have his own end game, and what would that be?
Raila is also probably having his own end game. And Raila's end game is very simple: State House. And he would want to go, yeah, remember his father told us that if you give me that thing for only 5 minutes, I'm happy. So the Odinga family has desired State House for a long time. And it doesn't matter how he arrives there. He can arrive there as executive president or arrive there as ceremonial president. And in my view, his hope, after he shook the hand, is that he'll get there either ceremonial or even executive. But my thinking is that Raila will be ceremonial president. See, he's an old man. And his job will be to do diplomacy, to do guards of honor, and kiss babies. and then the big four will be driven now by Uhuru Kenyatta. Because have you wondered why Uhuru came and told us there's something known as a big four? And then he went very quiet on it, and he's gone completely silent on it. It's as though it is inconsequential. My hypothesis is that probably he knows that he will have sufficient time after we have changed the constitution to implement the big four. So
for you, that's a certain a referendum is given?
Hypothetically. If we go for a referendum, then we will be going for executive prime minister. And if you go for a referendum, and the country needs to know this, there will be no election in 2022. The election we'll have in 2022 will be for governors, members of parliament, and senate, but there will be no presidential election in 2022. And if we do that, then we'll have solved the second problem. That's the problem of cycling.
Why would there not be a presidential election? How would a referendum deliver that?
If the referendum is calibrated in such a way that it gives us an executive prime minister. Executive prime minister happens like this. You either have a party list, and party list is that, you know, the Jubilee, or I think this time around they'll have something they call the BBI coalition. Raila is very good at putting together some of these things. The BBI coalition has a list, and we agree that 20,000 voters are equivalent to one member of parliament, and they go out there and they collect sufficient members of parliament to make them a majority within parliament. The leader of that coalition becomes the prime minister. In the case of South Africa, the leader of that coalition becomes president. So the president is not voted for directly. And that's the reason why
a proper parliamentary system is what we're headed for.
I think we're headed for proper parliamentary. That's the only thing that will solve the cyclic the cycles of violence that we have had. And that's the only way we'll deal with the second problem. Yeah. First problem being exclusion, second problem being the cycles of violence.
Let me return you to the issue of coalitions. And we've seen pretty much all the major political players, Raila, Kalonzo Mudavadi, Gideon Moi, Wetangula, among others, joining the BBI bandwagon. Is that, you talked about him being good at forming coalitions, is that the team that will deliver a stop Ruto vote?
I don't know if this election, whatever it will be, 2022 or 2023, and I have kept insisting it could be either of the two, because we can go for judicial interpretation of what the August of the 5th year is. If Uhuru was sworn in November 28th, when is August of the 5th year? Is it the August before November 28th of 2022? Is that the 5th year, or is it 2023? That will require some judicial interpretation. And my thinking is that there might even be a bit of mischief to prolong his
time in office,
his term in office through that judicial interpretation. But William Ruto will not be stopped by a coalition as big as that. Whatever we have right now will have to dismember itself, and we'll have a group of only 5 in each side. So if you have Uhuru Kenyatta, you have Raila Odinga, and you have Kalonzo Musyoka, you have Gideon Moi, and Madividi, whatever they call him.
Musalia
Mudavadi. If you have 5 of them in one coalition, the others have to move and form their own coalition.
Right.
So
will they join Ruto, form their own?
Also possible. They probably might even go to Ruto. So the coalition making and the politics of it will depend on who occupies what position early enough, in my view. So if you just get down to the wire, would you then conclude that BBI is an elaborate plan by dynasties to stop hustlers? Every election in this country has had an object of aggression and an object of desire. Now, the object of aggression in the Moi elections was Arab Moi. Object of aggression in the 2007 election was the Gama Nation. Object of aggression in the 2013 election was Raila Odinga. And the object of aggression in the coming election is going to be the dynasties. And the object of desire is going to be the hustlers. But in my view, the hustler nation is very tenuous. It is what you describe as a chaotic aggregate. In fact, hustlers, I describe them as crabs. You know, if you take a bunch of crabs and you put them in a bucket, no crab will crawl out. You don't have to cover the bucket because the crabs will just be
pulling each other down.
That's what the house of hustlers looks like. In other words, there isn't a stream of consciousness that binds together this hustler nation. Ethnic consciousness is stronger, in my view, than hustler consciousness.
Ethnic consciousness.
Ethnic consciousness. So this is not a struggle to stop, or is not designed to stop the hustlers. It's designed to stop one particular individual by the name of William Ruto. And I don't know whether the strategy will work. That's why I'm saying a runoff is most likely if we don't have a parliamentary system. And I'm saying that because, you see, when you go to the Kikuyus and you tell the Kikuyus that William Ruto is a thief, what you don't know is that Kikuyus have been called thieves all their lives. So when you say William Ruto is a thief, you are telling them this is one of your own.
Oh my word.
It's just like you. Those tactics are basically not working. The only way to slow down William Ruto is through logic. Let him and his brigade come and give us their position. And once they've stated their position, we agree or disagree with it, and we table the position of the alternative.
But must he be forced out of, just from Raila's perspective first, before we talk about his, must Ruto be forced out of government in order for Raila to have, you know, clear battle lines drawn?
The question is not whether he will be forced out of government or not. The question is when.
Is when?
When.
He will leave government.
Ruto is going to be impeached. You can go and borrow a loan against that as well. But I could also be wrong on that one because. but when you look at.
It could be Sunday and there's something wrong with your gut.
It could be Sunday, something is wrong with my gut.
Right.
But when you look at the way things have rolled out in the attack on him, the ultimate has to be an impeachment. See, this is what will happen. If we go to a referendum and he is beaten, then, like Kibaki in 2005, Kibaki told Raila Odinga, you cannot be in the same government as me, and you opposed the position I occupied. So Raila and Uhuru will come together and they will attempt to impeach Ruto. And it is not very difficult, by the way. The numbers actually are there for that to happen. Once they've impeached him, Rift Valley will go kaboom, and there might be a bit of clashes. And if there are clashes there, then Ruto will be said to be the one behind it. And by the way, those clashes don't have to happen generally. They can be engineered. Then they will say
I think the state,
Ruto is
or
behind
what they
it.
call the deep state, is involved in such business?
The business of the deep state is to do things that are not good, things that are deep. And that's why I'm saying they can engineer a situation where you have violence in the Rift Valley. And then Ruto is also not wrong when he says they want to take me to ICC. If there is violence in the Rift Valley, then Ruto is put on a helicopter.
Destination Hague.
Destination Hague. We're told he has a helipad in Sugoi.
Right.
They'll
fly him from there, is what you say?
From Sugoi, and they take him to the Hague. And once you remove him from that situation, the argument will be that the covenant between the Kikuyus and the Kalenjins was not between individuals. It was between the two communities. And we can look for a leader of that community so that the covenant can continue in its execution.
Just final thought before we take a quick break. Are you then therefore saying that the press has not overplayed the speculation that the relationship between the president and the deputy president is over?
You see, Anne, now, if you're a married man, and then you bring in another woman into your house, and then you tell your wife it is not what you think it is. And then the woman stays. She has a birthday party in Kisumu. He goes to the birthday party with her. They return together. They hold a party in Bomas. They are laughing with one another, and the guy is looking very depressed. And you keep telling him it is not what it looks like. I mean, if it quirks like a duck, walks like one, it is a duck. The fallout between William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta is total, and it is final. And they should not even pretend about it. And the country should not be pretending about it. And we should not.
What do you think caused it? What was the snap? Was it the fact that the deputy president was too eager to start campaigning, didn't sort of wait for his boss to fulfill his promise, as it were? My
my thinking is that William Ruto is a little overbearing. During the first term of Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto behaved like a co-president. He hovered all over the president. In fact, he even gave directives on behalf of the president. They call it the presidency. And I think Uhuru was just miffing and getting exercised, and he was saying, wait till we get a second term and I'll show you your place. So all along, I think Uhuru might have been genuine when he said, I'll support Ruto for the next 10 years. But the way Ruto behaved during round one, he looked at him and said, this man, I really cannot trust him with the presidency. And I think that's maybe where they began separating.
We're taking a break. When we return, is Raila Odinga making the same mistake with BBI? We're talking to Professor Mutahi Ngunyi. We're back after this.